Welcome back to the deep dive. So picture this. You're running a successful e-commerce site and you want to sell worldwide.
A dream.
Exactly. But then a customer in Brazil wants to pay with Pix, another one in the UK wants to use open banking, and someone in India just wants to use their normal credit card.
Mm-hmm.
How does your company even begin to manage that chaos? The technical side, the financial side, all in real time while trying to get the best cost and approval rate.
Well, the short answer is they don't. Not directly, anyway.
Okay.
They use something called Payments Orchestration, or PO.
Right, payments orchestration. Let's unpack that because this is probably the fastest growing capability in financial infrastructure today.
Absolutely.
We define it as, well, it's the ability for a business to manage every single payment method, every processor, every gateway, all of it through a single unified platform.
It's mission control. That's the best way to think about it. The mission control center for every digital transaction coming in or going out.
And our mission for this deep dive is to show you why this is, becoming table stakes.
It really is. PO isn't just some nice-to-have tech feature anymore. It's an economic necessity. It's the shortcut that modern businesses have to use to navigate this hyper-fragmented world of digital payments.
A shortcut to do what, exactly?
By centralizing that control, they get three things done. They optimize payment acceptance, they slash their transaction costs, and most importantly, they fundamentally improve those critical approval rates by adding intelligence into the system.
Okay, so let's jump right into section 1 then, the foundation. What is the actual complexity that orchestration is trying to solve?
It's a great question.
I mean, in the early days of e-commerce, maybe you had one or two payment partners. Now, if you're global, you could be dealing with dozens of payment types, hundreds of jurisdictions.
And each one has different fees, different rules, different failure rates. The core problem is what you could call API sprawl and fragmentation.
API sprawl.
Yeah. Before orchestration, a merchant in, say, 10 markets might have to build, maintain, and reconcile data from 20 different APIs. One for cards here, one for a bank transfer there.
And if one of those APIs changes or
So
breaks,
your entire integration could break. It's
Yeah.
costly, it's incredibly risky, and it's a huge drain on your developers' time.
Right, so by centralizing all of that, the business goals get a lot clearer. What are the immediate benefits our sources really highlight?
It's all about efficiency and the customer experience. So number one, maximizing your approval rates, because if a payment fails, you've probably lost that sale forever.
Oh.
Second, cutting costs. You want the most financially sensible route for every single transaction. And third, just providing a seamless experience for your customers, regardless of how they want to pay.
But I think there's a huge strategic benefit that sometimes gets overlooked, and that's the power of redundancy.
Oh, 100%. This is pure risk mitigation.
Oh, so?
Well, imagine you rely on just one payment processor, and suddenly they have an outage. Or maybe a bank in a certain region starts rejecting payments that come through them.
Your sales just stop instantly.
They just stop. Orchestration gives you instant failover. It gives you multiple fallback routes. So if processor A has an issue with a bank in Germany, the platform just automatically reroutes the traffic to processor C.
And the merchant doesn't have to do anything.
Zero intervention required. You just keep the revenue flowing. That's the ultimate goal.
It's basically an insurance policy for your global revenue.
Oh,
Okay, that makes so much sense. So now we know why they need it, to manage complexity and risk. Let's move to section 2, the mechanics. How does this thing actually work? It must have some serious intelligence built in.
it does. We can really break it down into 4 core interconnected layers of intelligence. And they all work together in less than a second to get a transaction approved.
Okay, give us the first layer.
Layer 1 is the connectivity layer.
The connectivity layer.
Think of this as a universal power strip or a travel adapter. This is where the PO platforms do all the heavy lifting of integrating every single component you might need. Processors, acquirers, alternative payment methods, local schemes, everything gets plugged in here.
Okay, let's pause right there. You just used 2 terms people often mix up, processors and acquirers. Can you give us the quick distinction?
Absolutely. So the payment processor, they handle the technical side. They move the data between the merchant and the bank networks. The acquirer is the actual regulated bank that holds the merchant's account. They're the ones who get the funds from the customer's bank and settle them with you, the merchant.
Got it. And orchestration manages both.
It manages both, picking the best acquirer for, say, cost efficiency and the best processor for speed and reliability.
Perfect. So once everything's plugged in, we move to layer 2, the routing layer, This is the brain, right? This is where the decisions get made.
This is the brain. It determines the best route for each transaction.
And how does it know what best is?
It's like Google Maps for money. It runs these incredibly complex algorithms in milliseconds, looking at multiple factors at once, the cost of a route, the risk score, and this is the big one, the approval probability.
Okay, let's zoom in on that.
Yeah.
Approval probability. Why would that change so much from one route to another?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Approval rates aren't flat. A customer with a specific card in Brazil might have a much higher chance of success if you route the transaction through acquirer X instead of acquirer Y.
Why, though?
It could be anything. Historical data, the issuing bank's own preferences, even just a tiny bit of network latency at that exact moment. The routing layer uses machine learning to predict which path has the highest chance of success. It minimizes failures and maximizes your revenue.
That is a massive revenue driver. But of course, speed and acceptance mean nothing if the transaction is fraudulent. Which I guess brings us to layer 3, the risk layer.
Exactly. This is where security and fraud prevention get baked in. PO platforms score every transaction in real time. If something looks risky, maybe it's from a bad IP address or the buying pattern is weird, the system has to decide instantly.
What to do with it?
Right. Do we approve it? Do we flag it for a human to look at? Or do we maybe route it through a provider that has tighter fraud screening, even if it costs a little bit more?
So for me as a merchant, this helps me avoid the nightmare of chargebacks.
The absolute nightmare, where you lose the product, you lose the shipping cost, and you get hit with a heavy bank fee. This is preventative medicine for your bottom line.
And all of this routing and scoring.
Yeah.
It must generate a mountain of data. Is that layer 4?
That's layer 4, the data layer. This is the analysis and reconciliation engine.
Right.
Merchants used to have to manually pull data from 20 different places just to figure out what they made. The data layer consolidates everything. It gives you a single view of your performance, tracks settlement times, and, just streamlines the huge task of financial reconciliation.
Without that, scaling globally would be an accounting disaster.
An absolute nightmare.
So if that all sounds incredibly complex, it's because it is complex. Which brings us perfectly into section 3, global case studies. Because orchestration isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, it's deployed differently everywhere.
It's the ultimate adaptive technology. You see PO platforms serving vastly different functions across continents, all based on local rules and what consumers prefer to use.
Okay, so let's start with the U.S. market. Here, it seems the focus is on massive scale and just maximizing card acceptance rates.
That's right. The big U.S. merchants use PO to constantly arbitrage between the major players, Stripe, Adyen, PayPal, WorldPay, you name it. They're looking for those tiny percentage point lifts in approval rates.
And it's not just cards.
No, of course not. PO also has to seamlessly manage things like ACH debits, tokenization for security, digital wallets, and of course the huge one now, buy now, pay later.
Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic to the UK market. Here, the conversation is all about multi-rail payments and open banking.
The UK is a leader in open banking, and this lets customers pay directly from their bank account, completely bypassing the traditional card rails.
The Visa and MasterCard network.
Exactly. And PO is crucial here because it can identify when an open banking payment is a better option for the merchant, cheaper, faster, and route the transaction that way, saving them a ton on interchange fees.
Now, for sheer volume and necessity, the Indian ecosystem, with UPI, cards, wallets, QR codes, it's a digital payment lab over there.
It really is. And for India, the #1 job for orchestration is ensuring redundancy and uptime. The volume is just enormous.
So things can break.
Things can and do break. If a bank or a specific acquiring route has even a momentary outage, which happens in real-time systems, the PO platform has to instantly and dynamically switch that transaction to a different acquirer that's working. That continuous switching is absolutely essential.
Okay, moving east. China's centralized systems. This is a totally different challenge, right?
Yeah.
The whole landscape is dominated by giants like Alipay and WeChat Pay.
It is. So for payments happening inside China, PO is less visible. But for any global merchant trying to sell into China, orchestration is the vital bridge.
A bridge for what?
It manages the complex link between those huge Chinese systems and the global financial networks. It handles things like currency conversion, making sure you get paid in your home currency, and applying fraud controls that understand the specific risks of those payment methods.
Let's touch on a couple of evolving regions. First, Africa and mobile money.
This is where PO really shows its unifying power. In countries like Kenya or Ghana, mobile money systems like M-Pesa are the dominant infrastructure. They operate completely separately from traditional banks.
So how does a merchant deal with that?
Well, PO's job is to integrate it all. It takes mobile money, cards, bank transfers, and pulls them into one single cohesive workflow for the merchant, from acceptance all the way to reconciling the funds at the end.
And finally, let's look at Latin America's fragmentation. This region is just notorious for its complex regulations and unique local payment methods.
Latin America is the textbook case for why you need PO. You can't just rely on global credit cards. You have to support the dominant local methods.
Like what?
Take Brazil's Pix, that's an instant bank transfer system, or Boleto payments, which is like a cash voucher system. PO platforms help you accept these. They reduce your foreign exchange or FX costs, and critically, they add in advanced fraud analytics.
Why is that so important there?
Because some Latin markets just historically have a much higher risk of chargebacks and fraud compared to, say, Europe or the US.
So it's abundantly clear. Whether it's a voucher in Brazil, redundancy in India, or open banking in the UK, the PO platform is the adaptable operating system running underneath it all.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 4, the strategic advantages and the future trajectory.
So if we just synthesize the strategic value here, PO gives merchants real financial independence. They get better authorization rates, they lower their costs, they simplify compliance. But there's a huge future-facing benefit here. PO is what enables the explosion of embedded finance models.
That's a huge point. Embedded finance is where non-financial companies think SaaS platforms or big marketplaces start offering financial services themselves.
Like loans or wallets.
Exactly. And they don't want to build all the complicated payment plumbing. By using a PO platform, they can just integrate these services without taking on all that technical debt.
So where does this technology go next? Our sources point to three critical drivers that are really accelerating its evolution. First is deeper integration with real-time payment systems and open finance APIs.
Yes. As systems like FedNow in the US or Pix in Brazil become the global norm, PO platforms have to handle everything instantly. This means the routing intelligence has to get even faster and even more accurate than it is today.
And that kind of speed needs more brain power, which I guess is the second driver. The increasing role of artificial intelligence, or AI.
AI is the next frontier for this, no question. It's going to refine those routing algorithms in Layer 2 to an incredible degree. Imagine a system that doesn't just look at cost, but also models the real-time network load of every single acquirer.
And for fraud, too.
Oh, especially for fraud. AI will create predictive fraud models that learn and evolve with new attack methods instantly, which is something static, rule-based systems just can't do.
And to handle all that volume and speed, the foundation itself has to evolve. So the third driver is scaling via cloud-native architectures.
Right. To handle global transaction volume, you need systems that are infinitely scalable and can be deployed anywhere in the world instantly. As commerce gets more fragmented, the underlying tech has to be cloud native to guarantee no downtime and to handle those huge, sudden spikes in traffic.
And we have to just reiterate how central this all is for cross-border e-commerce. As more markets connect, PO's ability to handle multi-currency routing and dynamic FX management, that's going to define who wins and who loses.
So when you synthesize it all, you realize that payments orchestration isn't just a piece of tech. It's becoming the fundamental nervous system of all digital commerce. It lets businesses start worrying about technical debt and start focusing on innovation. It gives them total control.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over. We've talked about how AI is going to intelligently route every single transaction based on cost, risk, and probability. So if this invisible layer of automated decision-making is controlling the global flow of digital money, how might that fundamentally shift the balance of power? You know, the traditional banks, they own the underlying infrastructure, they built the roads.
Right.
But if these new tech-focused payment platforms control the routing intelligence and the AI, if they control the traffic signals, who truly holds the strategic leverage over the global movement of money in the future?
That is a powerful question, especially as the AI gets smarter.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.